What if the greatest love story ever told was not between two people, but between the soul and the infinite? What if the love you've been searching for in faces, in bodies, in approval, in belonging, has been quietly calling you from somewhere beyond religion, beyond doctrine, beyond every label you have ever worn? In a world divided by beliefs, borders, and identities, there was a man who dared to say that love is the only true religion. And his words, written in the 13th century, still feel like they were written for the restless heart of today. He was a scholar, a jurist, a theologian, trained in the formal sciences of Islam, respected in his community, grounded in tradition, and yet something in him burned for more than structure. That man was Rumi. But the Rumi the world remembers was not born from books. He was born from longing, from loss, from a love so fierce it shattered his old identity. And from that shattering emerged poetry that would transcend mosque, church, and temple. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. With this single line, Rumi dissolves centuries of theological argument. He is not denying morality. He is not dismissing faith. He is pointing beyond the mind's categories into direct experience, a field beyond judgment, a field beyond separation, a field where love is not an emotion, but a state of being. To understand the depth of his message, we must understand the transformation that shaped him. When Rumi met Shams of Tabriz, it was as if lightning struck dry wood. Shams was not interested in intellectual debate. He was interested in burning illusions. Their companionship was intense, unsettling, revolutionary. And when Shams disappeared, Rumi did not collapse into silence. He exploded into poetry. Grief became devotion. Absence became presence. The beloved was no longer a man standing before him. The beloved was everywhere. What you seek is seeking you. This is not a romantic slogan. It is a metaphysical claim. Rumi suggests that the longing you feel for love, for meaning, for God is not one-sided. The very desire within you is evidence of a greater desire moving toward you. The thirst proves the existence of water. The ache in the heart proves that something infinite is pulling it. And this is where Rumi begins to transcend religion without rejecting it. He was deeply rooted in the Islamic mystical tradition of Sufism. He prayed, he fasted, he recited scripture, but his poetry moves beyond rigid boundaries. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. Different rituals, different languages, different sacred books, yet one light illuminating them all. For Rumi, religion was a doorway, not a destination, a finger pointing to the moon, not the moon itself. In an age like ours where identity often becomes a weapon and belief becomes a wall, Rumi's voice feels almost dangerous. He speaks of a love that dissolves superiority, a love that refuses to be contained by tribe or theology, a love that does not ask what you believe before it embraces you. He writes, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair." There is no entrance exam into this love, no purity test, only willingness. But this love is not sentimental. It is not soft in the way we often imagine love to be. It burns, it strips, it demands the death of the ego. Die before you die, he says, inviting us into a spiritual death, the death of pride, of false identity, of the illusion that we are separate from the source. In that death, something greater is born, not a new belief system, but a new way of seeing. For Rumi, the heart is the true sanctuary, not stone buildings, not institutions. The heart polished through remembrance becomes a mirror reflecting the divine. And when that mirror is clear, every face becomes the face of the beloved. Every sound becomes a whisper of the eternal. Love ceases to be an emotion directed at one object and becomes the atmosphere in which you live. And yet this vision did not arise in comfort. It arose in longing, in separation, in the unbearable tension between the human and the infinite, a tension that would push Rumi deeper into the mystery of love, even beyond the language he used to describe it. That tension between the human and the infinite became the fire in which Rumi was remade. He began to understand that longing itself was sacred, not something to escape, not something to numb, but something to enter fully. In one of his most famous lines, he writes, "Listen to the reed and the tale it tells, how it sings of separation. The reed flute, cut from the reed bed, cries because it has been separated from its source. Its music is the sound of exile. Its song is the sound of remembrance." And for Rumi, that is the human condition. We feel incomplete because, in a sense, we are. We feel restless because we were not made for small containers. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every moment of yearning is the reed's song echoing inside us. It is not proof that life is cruel. It is proof that we belong to something greater. The pain of separation is the shadow cast by a forgotten union. Rumi does not tell us to escape the world to find that union. He invites us to find it in the middle of life, in the marketplace, in the kitchen, in grief, in friendship, in breath. For him, love is not an abstract theological principle. It is a living force that transforms perception. When the heart awakens, even ordinary moments begin to shimmer. Wherever you are and whatever you do, be in love. Not in love with an object alone, but in love as a state of awareness. This is where Rumi transcends religious boundaries most radically. He does not argue that all religions are the same in doctrine. He points to something deeper than doctrine, the experience of being dissolved in love, the experience of losing the small self and discovering a vastness that cannot be contained in language. He writes, "I am not Christian, nor Jew, nor Muslim, nor Hindu. I belong to the Beloved." These words are not a rejection of his tradition. They are an eruption from someone who has tasted unity beyond identity. Imagine what that means. When love becomes your primary identity, you no longer need to defend a label. You no longer need to prove your spiritual superiority. You no longer see others as threats to your truth. Instead, you begin to see every path as a different melody played by the same breath. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. And yet this unity is not achieved by collecting ideas. It requires surrender. Rumi speaks again and again of being broken open. The wound is the place where the light enters you. What we try to hide, our insecurity, our grief, our shame, may be the very crack through which transcendence appears. The ego wants control. Love wants surrender. The ego wants certainty. Love wants trust. This is why Rumi's poetry feels so intimate. He is not preaching from above. He is confessing from within. He knows jealousy. He knows confusion. He knows the ache of absence. But instead of hardening around those experiences, he lets them soften him. He lets them teach him that the beloved he seeks in form is ultimately formless. The friend he mourns becomes the doorway to the friend beyond all forms. And slowly the idea of God shifts, no longer a distant ruler keeping score, no longer a concept confined to sacred texts. God becomes the pulse of existence itself, the breath within breath, the silence beneath words, the love moving through all things. To love another person deeply becomes a rehearsal for loving the infinite, and to love the infinite becomes a way of loving every person more fully. This is the paradox Rumi lives inside. The more he dissolves into divine love, the more compassionate he becomes toward the human condition. Transcendence does not remove him from the world, it roots him more deeply in it.
And as his poetry continues to unfold, he begins to reveal that this love, the love that transcends religion, is not reserved for mystics or saints. It is the hidden core of every heart willing to burn.
To burn. That is the word Rumi returns to again and again, not to be destroyed, but to be purified, not to lose yourself into emptiness, but to lose what was never truly you. Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames. He is not speaking of ambition, he is speaking of awakening, the kind of fire that consumes pride, comparison, fear of rejection, and leaves behind something simple and luminous. When love transcends religion, it does not erase faith, it fulfills it. It takes the outer form and fills it with inner life. Rumi never abandoned prayer, he deepened it. He never rejected scripture, he embodied its essence. But he refused to reduce the infinite to a system. For him, love was not a belief about God, love was participation in God, a dissolving into the very current that moves the stars and beats within the human chest. This is why his poetry feels timeless, because he is not arguing for a doctrine, he is pointing toward an experience. An experience cannot be monopolized, it cannot be owned by one culture or guarded by one institution. When he writes, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop," he is speaking directly to the part of you that feels small, forgotten, separate. He is reminding you that the depth you seek outside is already within. And yet to realize this is not comfortable. It requires courage. The courage to question inherited identities. The courage to step into the field beyond right and wrong. The courage to let love undo you. Because once you taste that unity, you cannot return to living only on the surface. You begin to see how often fear disguises itself as righteousness, how often ego disguises itself as piety, how often separation disguises itself as devotion. Rumi's invitation is radical in its simplicity. Become love, not in theory, but in practice, in how you speak, in how you listen, in how you forgive, in how you see the stranger. The true measure of spirituality is not how loudly you proclaim your faith, but how deeply you embody compassion. If your religion does not expand your heart, Rumi would gently ask, what is it serving? And here is the most beautiful part. This love is not reserved for the enlightened few. It is available in this very breath, in this very moment of awareness. You do not need to travel across deserts or memorize ancient languages. You need only to turn inward with sincerity, to feel the longing without running, to let the reed sing its song of separation until it becomes a song of reunion. Because the love Rumi speaks of is not somewhere else. It is the quiet presence behind your thoughts. It is the warmth that arises when you truly see another human being. It is the stillness that remains when you stop defending who you think you are. And in that stillness, the walls begin to fall, the labels loosen, the divisions soften. Religion may begin the journey, culture may shape it, language may describe it, but love is what completes it. Love is what transcends it. Love is what remains when every concept dissolves. And perhaps that is why, centuries later, his words continue to circulate across continents, across traditions, across generations. Because beneath all our differences, there is a shared hunger. A hunger not merely to believe, but to belong. Not merely to follow rules, but to feel union. Not merely to worship from a distance, but to merge. If this reflection resonated with you, if you felt something stir in your heart while listening, then you are already standing in that field Rumi spoke of. And I invite you to continue walking this path with me. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with someone who might be searching for a love that goes beyond boundaries. Together, we can keep exploring these voices that remind us who we truly are, not divided by religion, but united by love.